The skyline of New York shimmered in the late afternoon sun, golden reflections bouncing off the glass towers like shards of broken promises. Ethan sat on the edge of his apartment balcony, his tie loosened, coffee long gone cold in the chipped mug beside him. The city was alive, bustling, indifferent, and yet to him it felt hollow. Cassandra Monroe, CEO of one of Manhattan's most influential tech companies, was the reason for both the emptiness and the spark in his chest. Once, she had been his entire world. Once, he had trusted that the life they had built together was unshakable. But trust, like glass, was fragile. He remembered the day vividly. The divorce papers signed, her gaze sharp yet distant, the faint smirk she gave when she said, "I'm sorry, Ethan. I've made my choice." He hadn't understood then. How could she? They had laughed over burnt toast in that tiny kitchen in Brooklyn, had whispered promises under flickering streetlights, had dreamed of buying a little house upstate. And now she was a boardroom titan, and he was a ghost in their memories. Ethan rubbed his temples, fighting the headache that throbbed from the back of his skull. The betrayal hadn't been massive, just subtle, just enough to sting. A misplaced comment about his incompetence in managing the stocks, a small flirtation with a business partner that never crossed a line but left him questioning everything. "You're overthinking," he muttered to himself. "It's just everything falling apart at once." Then something strange happened. The world tilted, or maybe it was just him. His vision blurred, the sun exploded into a halo of colors, and he stumbled back against the balcony rail. One moment he was there, and the next he was on the cold floor of their old apartment, the very morning of their wedding day. Ethan froze. The smell of fresh flowers, the soft hum of the city outside the window, the nervous energy of a young man about to say, "I do." He could see Cassandra in her bridal gown, hair pinned elegantly, a nervous smile tugging at her lips. He touched his face. No scars, no stressed lines, just the boyish face of the man she had fallen in love with. A sudden rush of realization hit him. He had been given a second chance, a chance to fix everything. He had been reborn to the day he had lost her. And this time he wouldn't just accept betrayal. He wouldn't be passive. He would use every mistake, every lesson from the life he had lost to build something unshakable, something that could finally make Cassandra see him not just as the man she once loved, but as the man she needed. But even as the adrenaline surged, there was fear. Fear that changing the past could backfire, that meddling with fate had consequences beyond his imagination. And yet one thing was clear. He would rise, he would conquer, and he would win her back, not just with words, but with a power she could never ignore. Because love, Ethan realized, wasn't just about romance. It was about justice, about proving that even the heart could wield influence like the stock market, volatile, unpredictable, and entirely his to master. "All right, Ethan," he whispered to himself, clenching his fists. "Let's do this. Let's make history together." The smell of roasted coffee and wedding flowers filled the air, an oddly comforting mix that tugged at Ethan's chest. He stood in the old Brooklyn apartment's tiny kitchen, the same one he used to cook in while Cassandra yelled at emails over her phone. Except now, she wasn't that Cassandra yet. She was still the bright-eyed entrepreneur-to-be, ambitious, brilliant, and so damn beautiful in her simplicity that Ethan had to remind himself to breathe. Cassandra walked in wearing her wedding robe, hair loosely tied up, a diamond ring glinting on her finger. "Ethan," she asked, smiling softly, "you look like you've seen a ghost." He had. It was her, the woman he had lost, the woman he'd die for again if it meant holding her like this one more time. He swallowed the lump in his throat, just thinking about how lucky I am. She tilted her head, amused. "You usually say that after your second cup of coffee." He chuckled, his heart racing. She still had that teasing edge. He wanted to grab her, kiss her, tell her everything, but he couldn't, not yet. He needed to play this smart. Because Ethan now remembered the future, her rise as CEO, the betrayals in boardrooms, the business partner who nearly destroyed them, and the divorce that shattered his heart. And he remembered something else: stocks. The market boom that would start 6 months from now. The tech crash that would wipe out competitors. The small, worthless startup she'd invest in later that would become a billion-dollar empire. If he could act before it all happened, he could build something massive, quietly, under her radar. Her money, his mind. That night, when Cassandra went to meet her bridesmaids, Ethan stayed behind with his laptop. The glow from the screen flickered against his face as he typed furiously. He opened trading apps, wallets, spreadsheets, all with the eerie ease of a man who had once lived this before. Okay, he muttered, scrolling. Tech, electric cars, green startups, Apple's about to skyrocket again, and that crypto thing Cassandra mocked me for. Yeah, not this time. He moved Cassandra's small pre-wedding savings into carefully chosen investments, setting up accounts in both their names. He smirked. Guess I'm the house husband with insider knowledge now. Then her voice called from the doorway. What are you up to, Mr. Financial Genius? He froze. Cassandra stood there, arms crossed, eyebrow raised. The sight of her like that, the woman who used to intimidate boardrooms and break hearts with a single glance, nearly made him laugh. Just organizing our honeymoon budget, he said. She walked closer, leaning over his shoulder. You, budgeting. He grinned. Reborn me takes finance very seriously. She rolled her eyes and kissed his cheek. Well, as long as you don't lose our honeymoon fund in some sketchy stock gamble. Ethan's smirk deepened. If only you knew. Later that night, while she slept beside him, Cassandra's breathing calm and even, Ethan stared at the ceiling. The weight of his mission pressed down on him. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted redemption. To rebuild his pride, his love, and the empire she never believed he could create. But beneath that resolve, something else stirred. Fear. What if fate fought back? What if his choices now changed her, the Cassandra he knew, the one he still loved? He turned toward her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She murmured in her sleep, Ethan, don't be late. He smiled sadly. Not this time, Cass, not this time. Morning sunlight spilled through the floor-length windows of the boutique hotel suite, draping everything in a golden haze. The city below hummed with horns and life. Impatient, electric, unstoppable, just like Cassandra Monroe. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, his reflection both familiar and foreign. He wasn't the same man who had once fumbled through this morning, naive and unprepared. This time, he carried years of regret and a lifetime of second chances behind that nervous smile. The knock on the door came like clockwork. Ethan, came Cassandra's best friend and maid of honor, Lydia, half teasing, half commanding. Your fiancé wants to make sure you haven't run away. He smirked. Tell her I'm calculating stock returns before the vows. Lydia groaned. You and your numbers, God help Cass if you ever work for Wall Street. Funny, he said, tying his cufflinks. I might own Wall Street someday. Lydia laughed, the same light, airy laugh he remembered, but something in her eyes was sharp, curious, like she sensed there was more to him than the harmless house husband Cassandra had fallen for. The ceremony began at noon in a rooftop garden overlooking the Empire State Building. Ethan stood at the altar, his heart pounding in rhythm with the violin music. Cassandra appeared through the glass doors, bathed in light. The world blurred, and for a second, Ethan forgot the plan, the revenge, the empire, everything. She looked breathtaking. The way she held herself, confident yet vulnerable, reminded him of why he had loved her so fiercely the first time around. When she reached him, she whispered, You're shaking. He smiled softly, Only because I can't believe you're real. She laughed, her voice trembling with joy. I should be the nervous one. "You look different today." He wanted to tell her why, that he had been given a second life to make this right, but instead, he took her hand, kissed it gently, and said, "Maybe I'm just finally realizing what I have." After the ceremony, champagne flowed and laughter filled the air, but Ethan's mind was already racing. He had one last trade to make, one that in his past life he'd missed because he was too busy dancing. He slipped away quietly, into a private lounge overlooking the skyline, pulling out his laptop. His fingers flew over the keys. Buy 1,000 shares of Vertex Tech, execute at open. Then another, purchase green energy startup, Horizon Renewables 10K units. He knew these companies would dominate the next decade. He was planting seeds of an empire beneath Cassandra's name, using the same money she once used to divorce him. "Let's see who's the failure now," he murmured with a grin. Then a voice broke the silence. "You never could stay away from your little secret hobbies, could you?" Ethan froze. Cassandra leaned against the doorframe, her gown glimmering in the soft light, a champagne glass in hand. "You disappeared for 15 minutes, Ethan. I thought you were having cold feet, but no, you're here. Doing," she squinted, "whatever nerdy thing this is." He smiled disarmingly, "Just setting up a surprise." She raised a brow. "Should I be scared?" "Only if you hate profit." She giggled, stepping closer, her perfume dizzying him. "My mysterious husband, playing with money instead of dancing with me." He closed the laptop, stood, and took her hand. "Trust me, Cassandra. One day this will all make sense." She tilted her head. "You talk like an old man who knows the future." He smirked. "Maybe I do." And before she could respond, he kissed her deeply, fiercely, the kind of kiss that said, "I've missed you for lifetimes." The city lights twinkled below them as the guests cheered, and in that moment, Ethan knew this life wouldn't end the way the last one did. Because this time, he wouldn't just survive her world. He would build one she couldn't walk away from. The honeymoon glow had long since faded into the cold pulse of New York mornings. Ethan stood at the kitchen counter, whisking pancake batter with methodical calm. Outside, the city roared with horns and ambition. Inside, he hummed to himself like a man who finally had control. "Smells good," Cassandra said, stepping into the kitchen, her silk blouse crisp, her phone glued to her hand. Ethan grinned. "Whole wheat pancakes, guilt-free, just the way my CEO likes them." "Perfect," she murmured, still typing an email. "Investors from Berlin are flying in today, so I'll probably be home late again." Ethan flipped a pancake with mock drama. "So dinner for one again. I'll light a candle for myself." She chuckled, distracted but affectionate. "You're cute when you're passive-aggressive." "Who says I'm passive?" he teased. "Good point," she said, smirking before grabbing her coffee. "Love you, Ethan. Don't burn the kitchen down." "Love you too, boss lady." She left, heels clicking, perfume trailing, the apartment suddenly too quiet. Ethan exhaled slowly, setting the spatula down. He opened his laptop. His secret empire had begun to breathe. The accounts he'd opened months ago were already multiplying in value. Vertex Tech was up 120%. Horizon Renewables had just announced a partnership with Tesla. What had once been Cassandra's honeymoon fund was now the seed of something bigger, something his. But he wasn't hoarding it. No, he was using it carefully, buying real estate under shell names, funding small startups that would later merge with Cassandra's company. Every move was a chess piece placed toward one goal: independence. And then came the message that made his stomach twist. Incoming email from Adrian Blackwell. Subject: long time Cassandra, dinner tonight. I owe you a toast for your success. Ethan's hand froze over the mouse. Adrian Blackwell. Her mentor, her investor, the same man who had later whispered poison into her ear, convincing her Ethan was holding her back. He had watched this man destroy his marriage once. He wasn't about to let it happen again. That evening, Cassandra came home later than usual, makeup flawless, smile carefully composed. "How was the meeting?" Ethan asked, tone light. She hesitated for half a second. "Productive." "Productive," he repeated, tasting the word like bitterness on his tongue. "Did Adrian find your presentation convincing?" Her eyes flicked to his. "How did you?" "Old email," he said casually. "You left your laptop open." She sighed. "Ethan, it's just business. Adrian helped me start Monroe Dynamics. He's a friend." "Right," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "A friend who stares a little too long and calls you Cassie." She crossed her arms, defensive. "You're reading into things again. You always do this, find ghosts where there aren't any." He laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. "Funny. I used to think the same thing, before everything fell apart." Her expression softened. "Ethan, what's going on with you lately? You're different." "I guess I just learned not to ignore the warning signs this time." She blinked. "This time?" He froze. "Damn it. Too much." "Just figure of speech," he said quickly, brushing past her. "Long day, I'm going to shower." She stood there for a moment, watching him leave. There was a flicker of confusion, and maybe fear in her eyes. Later that night, while Cassandra slept, Ethan sat on the balcony, the skyline shimmering around him. He checked his phone. His brokerage account pinged, plus $480,000 profit. He smiled grimly. Justice pays well. But beneath the satisfaction, a deeper ache pulsed. He didn't want to destroy Cassandra. He wanted to protect her from repeating the same heartbreak. He wanted her to see him, the man behind the empire, not the shadow she had once left behind. He whispered into the city breeze, "This time, Adrian Blackwell goes down first." New York's skyline glittered like 1,000 silent witnesses. Ethan sat in a corner booth of the Azure Lounge, a place where deals were sealed over whiskey and unspoken power. He wasn't supposed to be here, not in this version of his life. The last time around, this was the night Adrian Blackwell started charming Cassandra out of their marriage. Not this time. This time, Ethan arrived first. The door opened, and Adrian entered. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a tailored charcoal suit that screamed money and ego. He spotted Ethan immediately. "Well, if it isn't the mysterious husband," Adrian said, smiling like a wolf who'd found his next meal. Ethan returned the smile coolly. "Adrian Blackwell, the man who thinks every successful woman is a trophy." Adrian chuckled, sliding into the booth. Straight to the punchline. "Cassandra always said you had spirit, just not much direction." "Funny," Ethan said, swirling his drink. "She told me you were like a father figure. Must have been awkward when you started texting her at midnight." Adrian's smirk faltered. "Careful, Ethan. The world I live in doesn't reward jealousy." "And the one I'm building doesn't reward arrogance," Ethan replied smoothly. They stared at each other for a long moment, predator and prey, though it wasn't clear which was which. When Adrian finally spoke again, his tone softened. "You know I like you, kid. You remind me of myself before I stopped trying to please people." Ethan leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "And I remind you what it feels like to still have a soul." Adrian laughed, clinking his glass against Ethan. "You've got bite. Cassandra's lucky to have a man who fights for her." "Oh, I don't just fight for her," Ethan said, lowering his voice. "I build empires under her nose." Adrian's eyes flicked up. "Excuse me." Ethan smiled faintly. "You'll understand soon enough." Later that night, as Adrian met Cassandra across the room, her elegant laughter floating through the air, Ethan watched silently from the bar. He remembered how, in his first life, this moment had marked the beginning of the end. Adrian had slowly crept into Cassandra's trust, whispering lies, offering opportunities that pulled her away from Ethan's world and into his orbit. But this time, Ethan wasn't powerless. He had already bought 15% of Adrian's private investment firm through shell companies. He was the ghost in Adrian's portfolio, the invisible hand tightening the rope. You took my marriage once, Ethan thought, sipping his drink. Now I take your kingdom. When Cassandra finally approached him, her cheeks flushed from champagne and excitement, she smiled warmly. You two didn't kill each other. I'm impressed. Ethan chuckled. We had civil conversation. She narrowed her eyes playfully. You're plotting something. He smirked. Always. She leaned closer, whispering, Don't. He's not worth your energy. Ethan froze. In her voice, there wasn't contempt, there was trust. Something new, something that hadn't existed before their fall in the last timeline. He wanted to believe it. But as Adrian lifted his glass across the room and smiled at Cassandra, the same sly, possessive smile Ethan remembered all too well, he knew the war had just begun. That night, as they drove home, Cassandra rested her head on his shoulder. I love you, she murmured sleepily. Promise me you'll stay this version of you forever, calm, confident, funny. He smiled faintly, kissing her forehead. I'll try. But inside his thoughts were steel. No, Cassandra. This time I'm not just your husband. I'm the man rewriting our fate, one trade, one lie, and one empire at a time. Rain fell softly over the city, streaking the glass of their penthouse windows. The lights below blurred into rivers of gold, a reflection of the chaos brewing inside both their lives and their hearts. Cassandra sat on the couch in her silk pajamas, laptop open, her eyes sharp as she scrolled through quarterly projections. Ethan leaned against the balcony door, watching her with quiet admiration. She looked untouchable, confident, brilliant, the kind of woman who could command a boardroom and still make his heart skip a beat with just one glance. But tonight that power had a crack. Ethan, she said, rubbing her temples, something off with our portfolio. A few of our tech partners are losing liquidity. Someone been buying large shares in our affiliates, quietly. Ethan's pulse quickened. He knew exactly who that someone was. He walked over, playing innocent. Maybe it's competition. Cassandra frowned. It's too strategic. Whoever's doing it knows my company inside out. They're cornering our assets, not destroying them, almost like they're protecting us. Ethan smirked inwardly. Protecting you is exactly what I'm doing. Out loud, he said casually, could be luck, or maybe someone just believes in you. She closed her laptop and looked up at him, her gaze searching. You're hiding something. He met her eyes, playful but steady, always. Later in bed, the city humming softly beyond the glass, Cassandra lay half asleep beside him. Her hand rested on his chest, warm and trusting. Do you ever miss your old job? She murmured. Ethan smiled faintly. Which one, the unpaid chef or the emotional support husband? She giggled softly, eyes still closed. Both, you were good at them. I'm still good at one, he teased. Her laugh melted into a sigh. You've changed, you know, you're more confident, mysterious. It's like you're hiding an empire somewhere. He looked out the window at the skyline, the silent proof of what he'd already built. Maybe I am. She nudged him playfully. If you ever do become rich, I hope you remember the woman who bought your first blender. Oh, I'll remember, he whispered. In fact, I'm planning to put her name on every building I own. Her smile softened. You really are impossible. The next morning, Cassandra left early for her board meeting at Monroe Dynamics, unaware that Ethan was already 2 steps ahead. He logged onto his hidden trading terminal and checked the numbers. His quiet empire had tripled in value overnight. He now controlled 25% of Adrian Blackwell's firm. Another few trades, and he'd own it outright, under a dozen shell corporations scattered across different names. Checkmate, old man, he muttered. Then his phone buzzed. Text from Lydia. Ethan, you need to know Adrian's meeting Cass alone today. Something's off. Ethan's jaw tightened. Adrian was about to make his move. At Monroe Tower, Cassandra sat across from Adrian in the boardroom, surrounded by glass and skyline. "You've built something extraordinary," Adrian said smoothly, his tone dripping with praise. "But partnerships like ours need loyalty. You've been distracted lately." "Distraction?" Cassandra asked, eyebrow arched. "You mean my husband?" Adrian leaned forward, his expression soft but manipulative. "Cassie, you're brilliant, but Ethan is. Not your equal. He'll always hold you back. Let me help you reach your potential." Her lips parted in disbelief. "You're suggesting I leave my husband for what? A stock merger?" Adrian smiled faintly. "For your future." The door suddenly swung open. Ethan stood there, calm, dangerous, eyes sharp with quiet fury. "Funny. I thought our future was sitting right here." Cassandra blinked. "Ethan, what are you?" Ethan walked in, hands in pockets. "Relax, love, just checking on our loyal partners." He turned to Adrian. "By the way, I should probably introduce myself properly. Ethan Monroe, majority shareholder of your company as of this morning." Adrian's face went pale. "What?" Ethan slid a document across the table. "Sealed, signed, undeniable." "You tried to take my wife once," he said softly, "so I took your empire instead." The silence that followed was almost cinematic. Even Cassandra was speechless. Adrian stood, rage in his eyes, but Ethan only smiled. "Don't look so shocked, old man. You taught me how the game works. I just learned to play it better." That night, Cassandra sat across from Ethan in their penthouse, still processing everything. "You own Adrian's firm," she whispered. "Ethan, that's impossible." He shrugged, pouring her a glass of wine. "Let's just say I've been busy." Her gaze softened, conflicted. "You did this for me." He hesitated, then nodded. "For us, so no one could ever use you again." Cassandra's eyes glistened. "I don't know whether to kiss you or kill you." He grinned. "I'll take the kiss first. The murder can wait till tomorrow." She laughed through her tears, pulling him close. "You're insane, Ethan Monroe." "Yeah," he murmured against her lips, "insanely in love." And as the city lights shimmered around them, Ethan knew the war wasn't over. But for the first time in both their lives, they were finally fighting together. Cassandra walked into her office, the morning sun slicing through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her empire sparkled beneath her fingertips, every contract, every merger, every stock meticulously managed. Yet today, something unsettled her. "Ethan." Ever since the Monroe Tower showdown with Adrian, he had been different. More confident, sharper, almost dangerous in a way she couldn't place. And she couldn't stop thinking about him. She tapped her pen nervously against the desk. "Cassie," Lydia's voice buzzed through the intercom. "Ethan just texted. He says he wants to go over financial projections with you. Now." She exhaled, annoyed but intrigued. "I'm coming." Ethan was waiting in the conference room, laptop open, graphs and charts glowing like a secret code only he could read. "Morning," he said, smiling that smug smile she used to find irresistible. "Morning," she replied cautiously. "What is all this?" He gestured to the screen. "Our empire expanding. I've been managing a few investments quietly, mostly to protect you and us." Cassandra blinked. "Wait, you've been trading our company's affiliates behind my back." He shrugged. "Behind your back or ahead of the curve, depends on how you look at it." She stared at him, incredulous. "Ethan, this is insane. You're controlling things I've spent years building." "I'm making sure no one ever uses you again," he said softly. "No Adrian, no shady investors, no one." Her breath caught. "And you think this empire of yours will keep me safe?" He took her hand across the table. "I don't just want to keep you safe. I want you to see me the man I was meant to be for you. Strong, smart, unstoppable, just like you." Her eyes glistened. She wanted to pull back, scream, and scold him for overstepping, yet every fiber of her being felt drawn to him. Later, at a celebratory gala for Monroe Dynamics' quarterly success, Cassandra noticed something remarkable. Ethan was no longer the timid house husband she remembered. He was magnetic, commanding attention without speaking, reading numbers, reading people, reading her. When Adrian tried to approach her again, smiling his predatory grin, Ethan's presence alone was enough to silence him. The room seemed to bend to Ethan's will. Adrian leaned in, whispering, "You can't play this game forever, Monroe. She's mine to guide." Ethan's voice was soft but lethal. "Not this time. You lost your chance." After the gala, Cassandra and Ethan returned to their penthouse, the city glowing beneath them. She leaned against him, her voice a whisper. "Ethan, I don't understand how you do it. You've changed everything. I'm not sure if I should be scared or impressed." He chuckled, holding her close. "Maybe both, but mostly I did it for you." Her lips brushed his ear. "You're impossible." "And you love it," he teased, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. She closed her eyes. "I do. I think I'm falling for you all over again." Ethan smiled, the weight of their past, the betrayal, and the empire in his hands finally feeling worth it. Because this time, Cassandra wasn't just the woman he loved. She was his partner, his equal, and the reason he had risen stronger than ever. And as the city lights blinked below them, Ethan knew that no matter what battles came next, financial, personal, or emotional, they would face them together. The morning sunlight was pale and hesitant as Cassandra walked into their penthouse office. Ethan was already there, laptop open, his face focused. "Morning," she said softly, trying to shake off a restless feeling in her chest. "Morning," he replied without looking up. Cassandra noticed something odd, a folder open on his screen. She moved closer, curious, and her eyes widened. "Ethan, what is this?" He quickly minimized the window. "Just a project I've been working on." Her voice sharpened. "A project? This folder has insider trades, shell accounts, acquisitions. Ethan, you've been doing this without telling me." He exhaled, meeting her gaze. "I told you I was building an empire. This is part of it. It's for us." Cassandra stepped back, feeling a flash of hurt and betrayal. "You said for us, but this feels secret. I thought we were partners." "I am," he said, voice calm, yet intense. "But some battles have to be fought quietly. Some enemies don't play fair. I'm just making sure no one ever hurts you again." Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I can trust you completely anymore." Ethan reached out, taking her hand gently. "Cass, I know it feels like betrayal, but everything I do, every risk I take is because I love you, and because I remember losing you once. I won't let it happen again." She stared at him, torn between fear and desire. His words were true, yet the secretive nature of his actions cut deep. Later, at Monroe Dynamics, Cassandra confronted Ethan in a quiet corner of the boardroom. "You could have told me," she said, voice trembling. "I want to be your partner, not just someone you protect from behind the scenes." Ethan's hands wrapped around hers. "I wanted to, but timing is everything. I didn't want you to worry or Adrian to sense weakness. I had to act fast." Cassandra's eyes softened, but the sting of betrayal lingered. "I want us to fight together, Ethan, not behind each other's backs." He nodded solemnly. "You're right, from now on no more secrets, I promise." That night, back in the penthouse, the tension between them hadn't fully dissipated. Cassandra crawled into bed beside him, resting her head on his chest. "I'm scared, Ethan. Every time you outsmart everyone, I love you more, but I also feel like I don't know you at all." He kissed her hair, holding her tight. "You do know me. You always have. And I'll show you every day that my love is stronger than any empire, any stock, any betrayal." She sighed, letting herself melt against him. "I want to believe that. I really do." He whispered almost to himself, "I'll make you believe it. I'll spend the rest of my life making you see. It's always been you and me." Outside, the city buzzed with ambition and greed, unaware of the quiet battle and the fiery love unfolding in the penthouse above. And for the first time in a long time, Cassandra allowed herself to feel safe, even if just for a moment. The trading floor at Monroe Dynamics was electric, buzzing like a storm about to break. Screens flashed red and green, phones rang off the hook, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and adrenaline. Ethan stood at the helm, calm amid chaos. Every trade he had executed, every investment he had made in secret, had led to this moment. Across the table, Adrian Blackwell's smug expression faltered. "You think you can corner my firm?" Adrian hissed, voice low, eyes calculating. Ethan's smile was cold. "I already have." A flurry of market orders flew from Ethan's terminal. Stock after stock shifted, shares transferring quietly, strategically, invisibly, until Adrian realized the truth. His firm was no longer his. Ethan held the power. Adrian slammed his fist on the table. How did you?" Ethan leaned back, hands clasped behind his head. "You taught me everything you know, old man. Only difference is I remember all the mistakes." Cassandra appeared in the doorway, dressed in her CEO power suit, eyes fierce and proud. She glanced at Ethan, then at Adrian. "You thought you could manipulate me and him. Guess what? You lost." Adrian's jaw dropped. "Cass, this is—" "Not today," she interrupted, voice like steel. Later, in the quiet of their penthouse, the city skyline sparkling beneath them, Ethan poured 2 glasses of champagne. "To second chances," he said, clinking his glass with hers. "To us," Cassandra whispered, tears glimmering in her eyes. They sat together, letting the weight of the past months fall away. The betrayals, the near losses, the financial warfare, it was over. Cassandra leaned against him, resting her head on his chest. "I don't care about the stocks, the companies, or the empire. I care about you, about us." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "I built all of that for us, to make sure no one could take you away again." She smiled, lifting her gaze to his. "You did more than that. You showed me how strong love can be when paired with a little insanity." He grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment." She laughed, and for the first time in years, the tension between them dissolved into something lighter, warmer, something unshakable. Outside, New York pulsed with ambition, greed, and opportunity. But inside their penthouse there was peace. Victory wasn't in the stocks, the deals, or even in defeating Adrian. Victory was this moment, together, safe, and finally free. Ethan pulled her closer, ready for the next chapter. She nodded, smiling, "With you always." And in the quiet glow of the city lights they knew, whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The sun dipped behind the skyline, painting New York in streaks of gold and rose. From their penthouse balcony, Ethan and Cassandra watched the city breathe below them, alive and indifferent, yet somehow it felt like theirs. For the first time in years there was no tension, no schemes, no battles waiting in the shadows. The empire Ethan had quietly built, the stock market maneuvers, Adrian's defeat, it was all behind them. Cassandra leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she whispered. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "Every day. I remember losing you, and now I remember keeping you." She smiled softly, lifting her gaze to meet his. "I remember being scared, but also loving you, even when I shouldn't have." "And I," he said, brushing her hair from her face, "remember all the mistakes I made. But I also remember the second chance, and I don't intend to waste it." They stood together in silence for a while, letting the city lights flicker across their faces. The quiet wasn't empty, it was full, rich with understanding, love, and the weight of everything they had overcome. Later in Central Park, they walked hand in hand. The crisp autumn air carried laughter from children, the distant honk of taxis, and the subtle hum of a city that never sleeps. Cassandra stopped, turning to him. "Promise me something, Ethan. No more secrets, no more games, just us, okay?" He smiled, taking both her hands in his. "I promise. No more games, only us, always." She leaned forward and kissed him softly, the kind of kiss that healed old wounds and sealed new beginnings. Ethan pulled her close, feeling the warmth of her body, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. "You're my peace," he murmured. "And you're mine," she replied, her eyes glistening with happiness. They stood together, the city sprawling endlessly before them, knowing that their love had survived betrayal, ambition, and the harsh lessons of the past. No empire, no revenge, no money mattered as much as this, each other. And for the first time, truly, they were free. Ethan held her tighter, smiling at the future stretching before them. "Ready for our next adventure." She laughed, a sound as pure and warm as sunlight. "With you, always." The city lights sparkled below, the world moved on, but for Ethan and Cassandra, time had finally slowed. In each other's arms, they had found not just love, but peace. And that finally was everything. The end.